I have repeated this very intro into my own head probably about 5 times now. Howdy, hi, hello. Yes, I am still the VTuber, but because, or rather, I am indeed a VTuber. The tags do not lie, but as I am sitting down in a dark room and often work in the middle of the night, my camera cannot see my face right now unless I lean forward and go all the way up in front of the camera. In which case it still struggles to see my face. Blah, 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 blah. So we're not doing that. Plus this program for some reason is lagging my computer. Lovely. Lovely indeed. That entire part of the video could have been very just broken. Regardless, I have repeated this intro probably about 5 times in my head at this point. I was there standing in the shower and having some thoughts come to me. And I had to sit down and record it before I forgot, which I have already partially forgotten because of the rigmarole of starting this video. But to give you a visualization of how I was having this thought, or rather conversation in my own head, if you ever seen Gravity Falls, think back to the scene where Bill Cipher is fighting everyone and he essentially puts everyone in the mind of Uncle Stan. And Dipper is talking to his grandpa, uncle, his uncle's, his grandpa's brother, whatever. And he was having a full-on conversation with him. Technically, Dipper's having a conversation is with himself there. So that's essentially a good visualization of the thought I was having in my head as I was in the shower. And I was thinking about the big tech people, which, before leaning into that, I just remembered part of the intro that I've forgotten briefly. Yes. Am I crazy? Maybe. Perhaps. uh, is that something very lonely? Potentially. But I have only really ever had these kinds of conversations with 3 people. My grandfather, back when I didn't really think as deeply about various things, and he is no longer of this world. Dan, who I haven't talked to one-on-one or in a call with for a little while, and my mom, which the conversation ends very quickly as it doesn't seem that me and my mom think of the same necessarily. So it's been a while since I've had these kinds of conversations, and this has really been the only outlet to have some semblance of that, as I don't really talk about anything deeply with my friends. I don't know if it's that they don't have brains that work like that or have this kind of conversation. Like it might have just never came up. But I was standing there in the shower, thinking about some of the big tech people. I was specifically thinking about Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and whoever is responsible for OpenAI. I forget their name, as their product is far more infamous than they are. And I basically was thinking about my perspective as to some of the images or the way I interpret them, my impressions of them. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, Elon Musk, for instance, is, inventor extraordinaire guy. The tech nerds love him kind of guy. Hip with the youths kind of guy, even though he's actually quite a grown man. I believe the youngest out of the three people I'm thinking about are is Mark Zuckerberg. As I remember looking up Elon's age a while back, and I was quite surprised. And I think that is very much uh, lends into his persona actually, or the way he acts, where it be real or fake, somewhat irrelevant for the conversation I'm having right now, as the way he acts is very much fits his you know being that cool guy that everybody likes. That is very now split, not just not just in the people who use Twitter, but also there are a few people who in the tech space or who like tech that really used to like Elon and don't really like him anymore. But whether he genuinely believes in this or not, Elon gives me the vibe of someone who wants to make a difference. And I think the same of Mark Zuckerberg. They want to have an impact, however, in very different ways. Because I was thinking about something I don't quite remember now, as the memory has faded, unfortunately. But it essentially led into me thinking about people that are taking actions that change the internet. And I was thinking about how I personally want the internet to stay quote unquote less human. Uh, and I'll have to elaborate on that because there are no words in my vocabulary to quickly describe what I mean by that. And I think there are those who want the internet to be less human in the wrong way, and those who want the internet to be more human. And I think uh, Mark Zuckerberg are one of those people who wants it to be more human with his failed attempts at the metaverse, as ultimately, uh, whether he sees it this way or not, a metaverse type avatar would break down a barrier of the internet. It's starting to some of my thoughts are starting to come back to me now. I think I'm going to, however, um, pause this video here before I say that, or stop it, and then start it back, editing it together, as I think that might help OBS process its struggle right now. I'm also going to close some things. Um, right, there are people who do things that affect the internet in a wider way, and one of the barriers of the internet is actually the loss of a more human connection. All of the things are coming back to me now, my memory now. Uh, of what I was thinking about. Yes, one of the barriers is a lot of people don't show their face. You are reliant on the voice. And while I think there are a lot more complexities to facial expressions and voices than some believe, flashing back to a situation that I went through in real life, in which someone much older than me thought that my body posture indicated that I wasn't paying attention, while that is untrue, as me being more tense or having that posture was exactly the proof that I was very much paying attention and listening and thinking about what they were saying. But they saw me not sitting in a certain way as not paying attention, which could lead into a whole conversation about like mental stuff and neurotypical and neurodivergency and all of that. But that's not the conversation I necessarily wish to have right now, mostly because I would tangent completely off of what I was really thinking about. But not seeing the muscle movements, the facial movements of someone, their body posture, and all of that, and even maybe even like the filters to make sure that you are heard clearly and there isn't a fan in the background or some kind of other thing that is making the call disturbing might actually potentially take away small intricacies in your voice and actually play a part in having an effect on um your communication. And in some ways, I think the internet often, while connecting the entire world, with many exceptions, uh, also goes back in some ways as it becomes a lot more reliant on certain things, making our communication less complex. Like a certain focus on words, when a heavy focus on words can actually cause a lot of miscommunication, which is hilarious. Uh, how words can actually make you communicate worse. And I don't even mean just in with the nature of like tone and sarcasm, completely ignoring that. It can have like an effect. But there's also other things like maybe seeing my face would change my conversations with some in a negative way. Maybe there's someone who overanalyzes your face and they try to find what's the truth behind that facial expression they're making. Not all skin teeth is green and all of that. Or they might see you smiling so much as like disrespectful or not uh paying them enough seriousness or enough attention or something. When people interact in a lot more different ways, like I am likely to tense in certain ways if I'm paying attention, but I may also relax if I'm paying attention in a different way. Let's say I'm really enjoying your company. I might be very relaxed. You have no way of seeing this over a Discord call or through a VTuber model, etc., etc., etc. And when I look at like Elon Musk, what he is doing, whether he sees it this way or not, is kind of a flawed, but many things are flawed, way of kind of fixing that. Because with a metaverse, and preferably something that doesn't look as ugly as his, something more akin to Psychopaths or Digimon, if you've ever looked at the Digimon games or ever watched the anime Psychopaths, would probably be a better solution. Those Psychopaths looks a lot more cartoony. When they did that, it looks a lot more like they're bringing VR chat into the real world in a more advanced way than bringing the real world more into the digital world, like what uh, Mark Zuckerberg is doing. I hope I didn't call him Elon Musk a second ago with the metaverse stuff. Mark Zuckerberg. Uh, and it's really funny that Elon Musk is seen as like the tech bro that all of the people like, when Mark is kind of more that guy. I think he is younger and someone who actually built something. Unfortunately, the thing that he is most well known for building is Facebook, which is considered, oh, that's an old thing, which is really funny because it was made by a college bro, a tech bro, but a college bro nonetheless, to connect people in like campuses and stuff. I think at one point had dating functionalities and things. So it's hilarious that Facebook is like the boomer thing, yet uh Mark is the young inventor, and Elon over here is, let's see, how old would this make him? 50? 50 something. He was born in 1971. So that makes him how old exactly? I cannot do math off of my head. It is not a skill that I've had. I've always had to write it down. Then I became quite good at it. It is definitely 50 something. 50. Let's see if I can do it without typing anything up. 55 mayhaps is my current guess. No. 53 plus 9. Let's see. Um, plus that. 52. 52, 53. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I was actually quite right. Nice. Um, and like when you look at Tesla, he didn't build that up from the bottom. When you look at Twitter, he didn't build that up from the bottom. What is his baby? SpaceX, maybe? Or at least PayPal is his baby, but he was removed from that. So, but when I look at Elon, it's quite the mirror in a sense to uh, Zuckerberg, which would have made their fight hilarious but also tragic, as Zuckerberg was going to beat his ass. um, but he is much older, but considered to be more of the tech bro, and he seems to care publicly, at least, about like having a cool, more cyberpunk world with futuristic looking cars and all of this stuff. And um, he is someone who seems that like he would like a more cyberpunk. Sorry about that. Hopefully that that looks like I'm looking at my voice meter right now. That 100% picked up on the mic. I just like la 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 la, got tongue tied and like gagged at the same time somehow. He is someone who wants to bring the tech into the real world and not more of the real world into the tech, where he wants, it seems like he would love to see a world where it's a lot more cybernetic. Uh, if you were to ask a much younger me, I would think both of those things would be very cool. But I am somewhat more jaded and see a lot of flaws in certain things, and I have my own look for certain things now that I am older. And while I still do think those things are very cool, and I would love to have like full-on conversations of how that stuff would work and how awesome it would be, at the same time I'm like, don't I have conditions to how I think that would preferably be. And I think those conditions will never be met because of the way innovation and technology goes. Oh, I remember thinking about that. I don't know if I wrote it down. I did. I think the file is still here actually. The companies we hate, Nikkei, blah 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 blah. Rose tinted glasses, growing up with the internet. Okay, I would have most likely forgotten about it because I didn't specifically write it down. But I think that a lot of technology innovates without the education catching up at all, and the access. It does catch up eventually, but there's no understanding. And I do believe that there should be an understanding. I believe that certain cyberpunk aspects will be cool only if the knowledge of these things becomes like carpentry, or even more common knowledge than carpentry, because how many people knows carpentry? How many people has ever used a hammer or a saw in their life, or like hunted or anything like this? Perhaps if you're like a city boy, you grew up in Texas or something, or like Southern or certain cultures in America or other countries, you are very familiar with these things. But there are many people who aren't. And I think there should be like from a young age, hands-on understanding of technology if you're going to have a world that is somewhat cyberpunk. Because if there is no understanding, it allows for manipulation from every side, from the hackers to the ones making the products. Uh, and not get lost in the plot on that conversation. This is why I don't necessarily like certain things when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's like Elon stuff, all well and cool. I wouldn't, if within the next 20 years you could become a cyborg, you bet your ass I'm not touching that by a 10-foot pole. Anything that is attached to me is a no-no. Even if it's like a Sword Art Online helmet that seems really cool or something like that. At the same time, I'll be like, this is where the Linux nerd comes in on me. Data collection and all of these stuff, I hate with a passion. Which also leans on to the other side, the more Zuckerberg side. No, I don't want the internet to become more human, even though I think that there are many barriers. Because I don't want to give more of my facial data, my personal data, to total strangers in companies and organizations who do not care about it. I am a customer, not even a customer in some aspects. And companies have shown time and time and time again that they do not care, or they're extremely negligent. And even if they do care, they will never care as much as you do. If you care, there's a chance you don't care. For instance, I have an aunt who uses Signal, and while she has paranoid nature to her as self as well, and her fears came true only in a place she did not expect. She expected that her television, her smart TV, or her laptops may spy on her through the camera, when it was ultimately, I think, a Ring doorbell that was doing the spying. Her security system was the one that ultimately ended up being the thing she should have been afraid of more than her laptop or smart television. I got her, as well as two other people in my family so far, to use Signal. Ultimately, they do not care. And ultimately, they will still always use Facebook and WhatsApp until something comes up that changes that. So they are a scenario in which the company in charge of Signal in this case, cares more than they do. Uh, but in the case of other things, some of these companies know they will never care, in the more privacy conscious space, know that they will never care, and they recognize that they will never care about your data as much as you do. They will care enough to give you systems to quell your worries about your data, like certain high levels of encryption or no access, so that you can know for 100% sure, or you can at least trust them with it, because you know that you are not truly trusting them with it. Which is why certain people who in the Linux space care about open source, transparency, privacy, etc., etc., etc. because you know that not only you know that you are essentially trusting them to hold something that they can't open. Um, so that's where that comes from. I feel like I slightly tangented, so I think I shall end it there. Not the video. What my points as to why I don't like the thing, because Facebook and some of these companies will not care about your data. And if they ever do, it's because it might be financially viable to them. And, ultimately, and words as they say, what is the thing that the Tao say? Uh, the Tao that is written is not the eternal Tao, or something along those lines. I feel as if I have not adequately used enough words to tell you what exactly I mean here. Because there's another thing that is to be brought up whenever referring to companies. There's a level of dehumanization in a way, I suppose, but that's not exactly the right word to use either. Where it's like, okay, the company is like this entity that you can point to. But at the same time, people work at the company. But even still, you know, that just complicates it even more. Because then you have to look at the higher ups. But even if the higher ups care, what's stopping someone lower down from being negligent and all of these things? But from going back to the big tech thing, my interpretation with Zuckerberg and Musk is that they actually do want to gain, like they do actually have some level of passion, whether it be true passion or passion for a public perception. Because, and this doesn't make it any less, like, I'm not saying that if someone has passion because of public perception, that makes them less passionate. If you like to excel at something because it gets you attention, then you are as passionate as someone who just likes to excel at something just because they like to excel at something. You know, it could be slightly different, but like ultimately, if I went and I played a competitive sport and I really liked it for the attention, or I liked it for the sport itself, and then my rival really liked it for the attention. Ultimately, we are not that different. We are both good at the sport and we are passionate about it, just with a different source of energy. Uh, I think both Elon and Musk are somewhat passionate about what they do. Ultimately, however, a lot of things fall into Elon's hands, like Twitter. Twitter kind of just fell into his hands, um, almost in a very, almost in a way that makes me lean more to the he likes the attention, as very, it seems like a youthful, almost disregard for consequence, which is quite odd for such a mature, quote unquote, older fellow, which makes me lean to the vibe of he enjoys being the guy that the tech bros love. Uh, and funnily enough, while Mark Zuckerberg is the inventor, he invented something that's uncool. He invented Facebook and then the metaverse, which he absolutely lost so much money on. God damn, so much money. Holy shit. Um, and then when we go to the guy who is in charge of OpenAI, I don't have the same vibe when I give more of a human benefit of the doubt to look at him. He is someone who invented a tool with, ultimately, I don't know these people. I haven't interviewed them, nothing like that. I have no grasp of who they are. I look at them from a distance through layers of separation. But it seems as if he is someone who ultimately made something that shaped an entire movement of tech bros and innovators and everything. You know, one of the essentially godfathers of like AI right now, the key points of AI uh, being large language models. He made it with complete disregard for the data that he is using and stepping upon in order to make this thing work the way it does, which technically he didn't use that data. You know, it's like the most like what's the quote? Like I wash my hands of that situation. I didn't do it. The AI did. Um kind of situation. Or like some people how they'll go, actually someone I watched will go, actually, technically the AI isn't scanning people's data, it is learning it from the data. Which, listen, I love technology. I am not one of those people who are like against technology. I love it with a passion, but that is the most stupid. Uh, like, um, and I don't have anything with anyone who's like thinks that technology is more negative than it is positive. Um, that is one of the most stupid technicalities arguments you could ever make, because that is not ultimately the point. But you know, and then what he did more than anything, because I am not necessarily against AI either. I'm against the ways that people do things and abuse things. That is what I am most against. He would turn around, and I would say to watch this video after this. I will link it in the comments. This is going on my main channel. I can link it in the description. YouTube glitched and didn't allow me to use my phone number for verifying my other channels, so I can't put links in them. It says that I have used this number to verify 2 accounts, but I was told by YouTube that you can verify 2 accounts. I've used it to verify too many accounts, is what it said. But I was told by YouTube that you can use a number to verify 2 accounts per year. I only verified one of my accounts within this year, because I don't think it's like once the new year starts. I think it's every 360 something days or whatever. This number, this specific number I'm using for these YouTube accounts, I refuse to give YouTube any of my other numbers, and giving them any of my other numbers would connect them to my other accounts and make it very clear that I am indeed the same person, even though they already have my IP address. But who knows, really? You know, they could simply think from a data analyst perspective that I am simply another person who happens to share this household, as there are many people who have made accounts under this IP and logged in under this IP, etc., etc., etc. With different phone numbers and the like. But yeah, it glitched. I wasn't able to use that number for 2 accounts, so that's quite unfortunate. So I can't put links on like my gaming channel and such. And I will not go with any other method. I don't think they're available. But even if I could use my ID or something, I wouldn't want to do that, even though I think I might have to eventually, as I think YouTube has their own system. Let me think. I think YouTube has a system for content claims in which you have to give up legal information in case it is turns to a legal battle over copyright. I don't know how YouTube monetarily handles anything, nor will I find out for seemingly a while, as it seems like YouTube's not going to be available for monetization in my country for a little while for some reason. I blame my government, as they should be more than equipped to have a higher technological development. I'll put a link to the video. That's what I'm thinking about. I got distracted by YouTube. And let me find it. It should stand out. WorldCoin. WorldCoin and OpenAI are very much tied together, as the person behind it was the same person behind OpenAI. And WorldCoin was essentially, yeah, let me scan your iris to make sure that you have a verification system against differentiating you from the mass outbreak of artificial intelligence, which, I may have caused. It's like the development of the technology you made allowed artificial intelligence to be more human, letting AI's tools and scam tools and all of these things appear to be much more sophisticated. And then, so you essentially create the problem and create a flawed solution to the problem, very flawed solution to the problem, to fight back the problem that you created, which is one of the things that leads me to not give as much of a benefit to the doubt to the one who is in charge of OpenAI, as it seems more like he isn't necessarily passionate about the technology, but what the technology can gain. Also, another thing that paints quite a questionable picture is also the incentive was monetary. And many people who did go with WorldCoin were in less developed nations. And it was brought to them kind of, it was like brought to them, and they would receive a currency for it. And they're probably hearing on like the newspapers or whatever they receive news of how all of this like AI stuff, and even if they haven't heard of it, they're getting money for it. And I believe the European Union and other people have stepped in, because that is very much very manipulative. But all of this comes together to really paint an image of like, yeah, I don't think he particularly cares much for the creation of it all, like Musk and Elon does. Uh, Regardless, I don't really have much of a stance on these people, like thinking they're good or bad or anything like that. Uh, if you stayed this long into the video to even hear me say that, as I did not make it clear in the beginning as I normally do, as I am one who likes to avoid conflict, so I speak in a certain way to make things very clear and to try and get a very much understanding in front of you. This is what I mean exactly, which could potentially, I haven't encountered this before, but I consider that it could be potentially seen as very like I failed the word isn't in my vocabulary right now, an appropriate word to use other than like one that is a swear or insult, but a very like how best to describe this, like how you see someone who would be like a pushover, I suppose. It could give someone that impression of me, I suppose. um and I've kind of jumbled my original thoughts for this video. However, I think I got enough across. There is one thing that I have to now slot into place awkwardly, and that was supposed to run a lot more smooth. It ran a lot smoother when I was thinking about it in the shower, and that is, to be fair, while I was thinking about it in the shower, I was also thinking about it from a framing point of kind of talking to myself. Again, in case you've forgotten, because I'm looking at the timer right now and it's been half an hour. Um, the best way to visualize the way I was thinking while in the shower is when Dipper was talking to Grunkle Stan in Gravity Falls, when he entered the mind of his grandpa and spoke to, technically, his grandpa's subconscious. It's something like that, where it's more of a this would usually be a conversation, but I have no one to conversate with at this point in time. I suppose I could have asked, but but I still would have to write down my thoughts as I would have forgotten them. So I slot this in now as it doesn't fit smoothly outside of the framing of a conversation. And these videos on this channel are not scripted. Um, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and the guy who made WorldCoin and OpenAI, them, much like many innovators of the past and many people who create a thing that changes, has an impact on people, whether it's more personal, noticeable, strong, slight, will never know what it is like to grow up in a world with the things that they have made. And I want to repeat that again for you to understand what I am saying. Someone who makes something, someone who invents something, will never know what it is like to grow up in a world with that thing. When people built factories, they never knew, and they have no way of knowing. They can't rebirth themselves immediately, just as a third party child being born into that world to experience what it is like to be brought up into that world. And I don't know how many of these Silicon Valley bros and just people in general take that into consideration when they make a decision. That, hey, sometimes they might not even have known will have much of an impact. I think the one with the least impact here is Facebook and the metaverse because it's a joke to everyone. And it goes both ways as well. Elon, sorry, wrong person. Musk had no way of ever knowing that his little, like, Harvard or whatever school he went to project would have like millions of people using it every day to connect with family, friends, or to be a foundation of their business. If someone all of a sudden like came in and swooped in and purchased Facebook, as much as people like to joke it's a boomer platform, it would affect a lot of people if they just purchased it and all of a sudden started making changes. And this really puts a lot of massive criticism on Elon. Once you step back, disassociate, relax, at least for me, and look at it. Elon does not know. Not even not even going as deeply as what it's like to grow up with something. He does not know what it is like to be the person using Twitter and have someone come in and just change shit on him and change stuff up and affect it in a significant way. Uh, Musk, when he invented Facebook, had no way of knowing that it would have been such a big thing. You know, people use it. There are stores and companies I know, actual businesses. Uh, Now, granted, they are small businesses, but it's not like where I'm from is in a very large place. So even if there is the what's the word I'm looking for? The presence of industries like chains like KFC and such, there are still a lot of small businesses. Um, and there is no like Amazon, like massive chains here necessarily. There are some, but it's very much a much smaller scale than say the United States. Now there's a lot of choice, big and small. You know, what's the word? What's the phrase? Mom and pop, I suppose, is the phrase. There's a lot more of a prevalence of that here. They are reliant on things like Facebook for their businesses, and some of them have innovated. Do you know how they've innovated? Did they make a website? Some of them did. Some of them also have official business accounts on WhatsApp. Because from outside of an American perspective, WhatsApp is one of the apps. Okay, it is the app. It is like going to like China and not using WeChat, I think it is. And now could you get by not using the app? Of course, it's not an everything app, which is why having an everything app is uh not having an everything app is a good thing in a lot of ways. But religious organizations, families, schools, workplaces, businesses, they use WhatsApp. Uh, they of course have their traditional phone numbers and such as well. And if you look up the statistics for a user base, you will see certain things that you might not have noticed before about social media platforms. You know, you peek outside of the current knowledge that you have or the knowledge of the space that you are within. Um, but yes, there are people who will take these actions. And I was probably also thinking about like governments while I was in the shower, or this might be a memory from yesterday or the day before when I was thinking about this myself. I might have thought out loud, I think. I particularly remember saying my grandma said I was talking to myself. She was asking me if I was talking to anyone. No, I ended up just mouthing my thoughts aloud. When governments, organizations, or individuals, in the case of Elon Musk, take an action, when it comes to something, they fail to realize the kind of they can't understand. When it comes to Zuckerberg, they don't understand from the beginning how big something's is gonna get. But then there are people who make decisions that don't understand truly what it is like. They just cannot understand what it is like to have that thing interfered with and changed. And even if they have good intentions, what that will lead to. Um, and yeah, I think that's probably all of my thoughts. I don't have a solution. I just have words to say, but it's definitely something that I was thinking about recently. They don't take into consideration what their changes will do. Ooh, I want to end it on something as well, and I truly do want addition to these conversations, as that is what I kind of long for. In a sense, I like various deeper types of conversation. However, they can easily lean into conflict, you know, which I dislike a lot. One of the reasons I don't use Twitter anymore is just a heap of unnecessary conflict. Um, but it can often lean into certain things that, oh, this is political, oh, this is this, and oh, this is that. But I wanna end it out with something that I've already fucking forgotten. Give me a second. Um, the effect things have on you. No, I have forgotten. Damn, that is very unfortunate. Yeah, I have forgotten what I was gonna say. Oh no. Oh, this is staying in the video, by the way. Um, like when I open my editing software, I'm just bam, bam, connecting the two clips together, which probably makes it like an hour. My first hour recording, it might be. Um, let me think. Let me think. Tick. I wanted to leave this off with something. I wanted to leave this off with a question that popped into my head. Fuck. No, no, it's lost. It's gone. R.I.P. Sayonara. Um, I guess I'll ask something else. What do y'all think about my viewpoint on knowing how tech works? Because I really think we should. I think we should take a step back and hard focus the education as if these tools are truly going to be a part of life, it should be something you grow up with, not from a closed off Apple senpai fucking perspective, or even like a, oh, these things just exist and we just use them perspective, but from a like hands on little Johnny going to preschool and has a little model computer and he knows what the parts are. Because I would never accept a cyberpunk world in which little Johnny has no idea how anything fucking works. And it's just something he grew up with. We barely know how our phones work, many people. I don't know, and I'm a fucking tech student currently. Like, I can't sit down and describe the various functions to you. Not e- and even if I would, even if I describe to you right now what like software is and hardware, I don't exactly know how like the other functions of a phone work. And I just want to understand it more personally. And I also think that it should be something you should understand more. You know? Like like when my grandpa told me how to use a hammer, I think for something so complex as a phone, before you jump into the world of AI and all these stuffs, you should be able to have somebody sit you down and be like, hey, this is the phone. Let me open it for you. It's not soldered or glued together. This is a chip. This specific chip is unique. It is tied to your phone number. This chip sends out a blah 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 to the blah 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 blah, and that little satellite over there with the tower over there, so that you could communicate with your grandpa who lives all the way over there. I think it should be basic knowledge. And it could be if it's taught at a young age in a simple way. Just why, I just, I don't know, man. And I'm slightly annoyed that I've forgotten what I wanted to say at the end of this, but I think I shall end that there, I suppose. What is the time? The day is already gone. Oh, how I wish I could stop time, even in my sleep, and complete a bunch of things, and then restart time again. It is 1:30 a.m. I haven't really gotten anything done today, and I wanted to, but at least I have gotten this done. Oh, if only there weren't so many things. What it would be like to live a life where you don't have to focus on so many things, where you don't feel the need to, and you could just focus on what you enjoy the most, eh? where learning didn't feel like a chore because you feel like you still gotta learn so much and it's, or you have to learn a specific thing to get the thing that you want, or a specific thing to ensure that you can afford food and no Pebble Cop. AI is not the way. We are not going to have AI robots helping us. Not at all. Not in the slightest. First of all, how on earth are you going to even pay for that? Do you think that's just going to go away? No, 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 no. Not at all. You're going to have to buy those things. Innovation doesn't necessarily raise everyone with it. They will still be the simple things. I mean, how old is the internet? There are those who don't have it. But I have it right now. And yet, no matter how much time I put into it, I feel as if I'm not using this tool that I have been graced with to its fullest potential. Have a good day. Thank you for watching my video.